Is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
You have to be strong in today's world. Keep your focus and what you believe in, how to achieve all your dreams. Keep moving forward, never accept less than who you are. Live your best life. Be strong and free. It's
The Hits Back with Nahaja Black is sponsored by the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, BTC, Boost Academy, J.S. Johnson, and Baja Retreats and Spa.
Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
And welcome to the Hit Back. I'm your host, Nahaja Black. I hope that everyone's doing well, taking care of yourself, and living your best life today. We have a full show for you today, filled with information. Election season is here, but amidst that, in the midst of that, is COVID-19. COVID-19 actually is superior to even the election. COVID-19 is the story. It is the elephant in the room. It is the many persons who have passed away due to it. Just this weekend, being hit so close to home for friends of mine, a friend of ours, my husband and I, is now a widow, a young widower. Is it for men? A young widower. And that's a whole other story, and we'll talk about that too. And actually, the circumstances leading up and surrounding that young woman's loss, brilliant Bahamian contributing, and it just keeps on, reminding us that this virus is no respecter of persons. This virus is seeking anyone that it could devour. And many of us are fortunate. I'm chatting with someone who's a listener of the show right now, and she's in the hospital. Some people that I know are very well, and if I said their names, you would know that they're also struggling with COVID-19 in hospital today. So we as a nation, even though this would normally be, election season is normally filled with excitement, normally filled with energy, it has changed this season, because as we are trying to determine the next government, whether it be this government that exists, the Free National Movement, or another, whatever it is, whomever will come will be faced with two crises that are unlike any we've ever seen. An economic one and a health one that is continually fueling the economic one. And so whilst we are doing this, we must be mindful that the weight of our decision rests with us in our future. How will we be dealing with this thing? And in a month time, if we don't handle this now, if we don't stem the tide now, if we don't make hard decisions today, more people will continue to die and more families will be broken. This country is in mourning. And I think that is important. All that we're doing, we got to definitely keep that in mind. Keep it all in mind. Now, we have so many things going on today. I'm going to tell you a story surrounding a friend who is a widower, and the circumstances, they're very interesting, whilst tragically sad. We also have, and joining me to have that conversation will be Dr. Dwayne Sands, because, of course, Dr. Lockhart, she lost her husband. She's still recovering from her very close and severe COVID-19 battle, so we don't have her with us, joining us anymore. And I don't think we should expect to hear from her during the rest of this pandemic unless she wants to. But that family is grieving on that loss. And other physicians who I normally would call on, they are in the heat of battle. And I thank Dr. Dwayne Sands so many times for just being available to us to ask certain questions. We also will be joined by a political candidate from the Progressive Liberal Party, and he's actually waiting behind the scenes for us. And he's representing Yamacraw, right? He's going in for the big honcho, and I think, and Zainab, nod to me, I'm certain it's Yamacraw, right? Just nod. Yeah, I didn't make that up. So I know I saw the names on the posters, right? And the incumbent is Ellsworth Johnson, and so that's going to be very interesting to have that conversation with him. Then after that, we're also going to be joined with my good friend C.A. Nuri as we evaluate certain things. There was a recent polling that came out that says that this is the Bahamas Quinnipiac polls that shows that the Free National Movement is going to win 27 seats And the PLP will win a lowly 12. And no independents were counted in that number. So I mean, my God, coalition didn't slip one in. Lincoln didn't win his seat. That Orinthia, Carmichael will be tough, but Orinthia, not even. All right, so we got that to discuss as well. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. I want to welcome, though, all the way from his fancy office. I don't know where he is right now, but we are social distancing. And Zane, please unmute your mic. Zane Lightbourne, Progressive Liberal Party candidate for Yamacraw, the constituency of Yamacraw. Zane, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Yeah. You know, it's a pleasure to have you. Your first time guest on the show. And your first time on the show, you are coming in strong. You ain't coming in weak. You're coming in strong because you are running or vying for a seat in the higher office. Zane, tell me a bit about, before anyone else gets to you, why you're running. Tell us a bit about yourself. Who is Zane Lightbourne?
Zane Lightbourne is a young man who came from very humble beginnings. Growing up in the island of Eleuthera, my father, who was an Eleutherans, my mother was a taxi driver. She was also a vendor. She's passed now, but she was from Cat Island. I went to Preston H. Albury High School, where I graduated in 1992. Went to the College of the Bahamas. I was a part of the government's initiative for free education at that time. So I received the government scholarship to go to college free. And I got my associate's degree at that time in history and geography. I went back to the college. I also did a bachelor's degree in history and geography. I've been a trade unionist, a teacher. I have been an administrator. And presently, I am just exiting school management in the Ministry of Education, but my life's work has been representing people. As a young teacher, I had the privilege of serving with some of the teachers who taught me. And for me, that was very, very valuable to my life. I saw, though, that there was a void at that time where a lot of them were suffering some of the same things that they're suffering today. The lack of representation at a certain level for some of their HR matters, and or solving some of their HR matters that affected them and their families. And I chose to be a voice at that time, just in the staff room sometimes, speaking to the administrators and trying to just represent my teachers, some of them who were my mentors. And I sought to make a difference as a trade unionist and an educator. And now 22 years later, I am seeking higher office to serve after serving at not only the teachers union and also the managers union in education level, but the national Congress level as the Secretary General. And so I have a history of service to people. And this is just a bigger stage, a bigger platform to be able to serve more people, because our country expects that leadership that has been trained in its borders, or because of the benefits of this country, that we can produce quality leadership and vision that's supposed to be the succession plan to drive our country forward. So I'm a product of a beautiful country that has done well for many of its citizens and still need help, though. And so I am here to serve, and I'm here to serve people and improve on what we have done and haven't done so far.
Zane Lightbourne joining us, PLP candidate for Yamacraw, vying for the seat. The incumbent, of course, is Mr. Ellsworth Johnson, respected attorney, former Bar Association president, and I think a formidable rival. And of course, you have DNA candidates. You have, I think you of course, the field is filled right for you, Zane. And right now, the country is in its most precarious position. Right, and the Progressive Liberal Party is no stranger to when the country is in its state of turmoil, where there's disgruntlement and we have this bit of uneasiness. When you look at your constituency, this constituency that you're vying for, and I'm sure that and every Progressive Liberal Party candidate, I will be asking this question: do you believe that the PLP, the party that you are coming to represent, that you in Yamacraw, yourself in Yamacraw, and the party's vision is what the people of today need and are looking for. Because that'll determine. Yamacraw is a different type of crew now. They're not. You're not going to sleep on Yamacraw.
Yamacraw is a very diverse community. I don't just visit here; I live here. I'm a part of the community. I experience everything that the residents of this community experience, and it's diverse. It has all sections, and if you want to call them class of persons, we have the wealthy Bahamians and some of the struggling Bahamians, middle class families, and families of lower income. My service to them would be under a PLP that has a progressive plan for this country. And it's not by accident that I am a part of the PLP. As a young man, I listen to all that is said out there, the positive and negatives. I take it. I also understand that it's important to educate our people that our country is run off administrations. And every other progressive country is like our own, where you may criticize a particular party, but every administration is different in its handling of business. And definitely the PLP that is representing, that has come to the forefront to represent this country at leadership level, we are the PLP for the future of this country with a robust economic plan. We have put together that from March of last year. We have also put together a response to COVID. We have also we've rolled out those plans recently, and also brought back some of the plans that we know would work. We are the party that brought all of the big initiatives nationally that our people benefit from, starting from the University of the Bahamas in education, when it was the College of the Bahamas. That was done by the PLP. The thing is, the initiatives that would come forward as a party with a particular administration have to present present circumstances and a vision for the future within those circumstances and beyond. And that is what the PLP brings to the table. And so our economic plan is there for everybody to see and has been rolled out. And we have also answered a lot of the press that would have asked questions on these things and the local citizens, and it came from within the belly of the community. The constituency of Yamacraw and its diversity have different needs depending on where you go and who you talk to. And the plan have to speak to our economic recovery and jobs. It speaks to that. It speaks to energy reform, how we are gonna make life easier and more, make the dollar stretch further in this present economy. So we speak about decreasing VAT on day one. We are trained and ready to lead on day one.
That's a big one, Zane.
Yes.
Decreasing VAT, even when we need revenue more than ever.
Sorry, the plan for the people, it came from within, like I say, the organization. And the diversity of leadership, we have a very sage, wise leader in Mr. Philip Brave Davis. We have one of the strongest women who, condolences to our family again. We have lost, she is stuck from one of the strongest men to come out of our country in Ms. Glennis Anna Martin. We have younger candidates who are business people, educators, sports enthusiasts, trained coaches, and we have every sector, education, health. We are addressing the needs of people in this country, and this is a new day for the Bahamas. I want people to really believe that, because some of us have been on the sidelines and complained about what this country needs. It's not enough to be trained to lead and to be futuristic. And then when it comes time for you to represent and do well for your country and your people, that you stand on the sideline and do nothing. There's a saying that everyone knows or should know, that evil prevails when good men stand by and do nothing. Well, I am one of those good men who intend not to stand by and do nothing, but to put my shoulders to the wheel and to bring my expertise, my youth, my experiences, and a country that would have educated me to be to this point. I think that this is the time to step forward, and definitely the Progressive Liberal Party is the progressive party that knows how to bring this country out of this present circumstance. We have the blueprint, we have the plan, and we are not just fly-by-nights that have shown up saying we want to lead. We are being trained, and we have been trained for this.
Zane Lightbourne, PLP candidate for Yamacraw. Let me ask you this, Zane. One of the things that we have learned and continue to learn as the populace is that, listen, candidates are not the prime minister. The prime minister, as we have seen in this administration and prior administrations, is central figure. He is supposedly supposed to be first among equals, but there is too much power. There's a lot of power that is centered around the prime minister. They make all of the decisions. They rule the party. They call the whip on the floor. If you don't vote with the party, you find that you are a backbencher, and even as a backbencher, told to be quiet. So not even functioning as a backbencher. Yes, saying the people will ask and say, yes, saying you were in the union, you were, an individual. But in politics, it's different. How do you persuade the Bahamian people to believe that
all parties aren't created equal, Nahaja, and definitely we're not that type of party. This party has gotten a plan from its stakeholders within the party, and that is young and the old, experienced, and in all of the various areas of experience and education that we have. And the powers
is your leader different enough to give you the lever? Are you because this is where it's all about for many of us. What is different? What is different in terms of your leadership? And then we'll get to Yamacraw.
Search Brave Davis as a leader, right? Ask anybody their influence. Do a cross-section. You can do your own survey in this country. And do a cross-section of persons whose lives he has affected, of people that he has mentored over the years, of people he helped for free in his profession. Ask people about his leadership ability, about his caring heart. Ask people, and they will tell you who he is. So all of the negatives is unfortunate. There are a lot of colleagues that I have who would not dare to step forward in politics. They're not bold enough because they said, hey, I don't want to expose my family to the negatives of politics, or it's a dirty game. And, at the end of the day, we have to have quality leadership in this country. Brave Davis brings that with experience. And if people would just give a fair chance, which many of them will do, and most of the Bahamians in this voting populace now have said that they will do, so we are very confident he will be the next prime minister. And he is going to show people that this is a different day, this is a new day with a new prime minister, with somebody who listens, who have a heart for people, who will not seek to take power under himself and also to punish people who oppose him. He has opposition already where persons we're not just a bunch of yes men sitting around. When this prime minister got his power, that was given to him from what people gave their representative. He didn't just take the power upon himself. No one consulted the Yamacraw residents in terms of an MP to say, hey, I'm looking to give the power that you gave me, all of it, to this one man for almost 2 years. This is an indictment on representation and what the country's representation is supposed to look like. At least have the respect to meet with the intelligentsia of your country, at least, or your regular countrymen, and let them know what your plans are, because this wasn't part of the plan. And they talk about response to COVID. Well, there are a lot of countries who responded different and still responding different. But when we find it convenient, what we do is use the bad examples or negative examples to say, oh, well, this country has it this bad. You know what, for change, let's put ourselves with the countries that's working and that will work to make things better, and try to chase those examples. That is the way to build a country. Of course, we don't always have to reinvent the wheel. We can tweak the wheel to suit our particular country, but we have the know-how here. We need to treat each other fairly, and our leader is one of them who will be treated fairly. And despite the naysayers, he's going to be the prime minister of the Bahamas, and he is going to show persons who are still in disbelief. Many of them will come around, and when they asked to search themselves, they believe, because they know the information for themselves.
Let me ask you this. Let's go micro. You're vying for Yamacraw. What are you hoping? What have you found out? What do the people of Yamacraw need? And then what are you planning, or how do you plan to meet those needs for the people in Yamacraw?
Thank you. There's a 5-point plan that I would put out as part of a bigger plan for Yamacraw. And the first one is a community subcommittees, and this ran through the party who would have approved that, hey, we don't want to put anything out there that is a promise to people. We want to put actual work in on the ground, and everything that we say we're going to do, we're going to do. So these community subcommittees that would work as a hybrid of a neighborhood watch would not only watch crime, but also the infrastructural improvements that need to be made, whether it has to do with roads, lighting, safety concerns of overgrown bushes. So that committee will work directly with my office in Yamakroa to make sure that we have every community's issues addressed in a timely manner, because the issues vary depending on where you go. There are some people who live in low-lying flooding areas, and we can't promise to the people who don't have that problem that is what we're coming to address for you, because it isn't practical for them in their neighborhood or their homes. We have a student database, a student help center that is going to be, we have the teacher support in Yamakroa, many teachers in Yamakroa and school owners. And they have agreed, I've had conversations with most of them. If it wasn't for COVID, we would have put into place an initiative that would have dealt with a STEAM program for summer school. But that is something that we're going to do forward. Our students in this country, we have a graduation rate of 50%, a little more than 50%. And when we also look at the national average, as it's called, quote unquote, we know that if you really take that realistically as to what people are saying it is, I think it's misused sometimes, but that is based on students who are qualified to take exams. That doesn't take into account the students who don't take the exams because their teachers won't sign them up because they won't reach the qualifications to take the exam. So the situation is that much dire and worse. We have to pay attention to improving our overall country, and it starts with the community. So the Student Help Center is with teachers in the area to call students, whether it's national exams, whether it has to do with homework, or whether it has to do with their technical studies, where they can have training on the school campuses so they can be ready to go when they reach in the communities as working people. We also have initiatives that have community efforts returning in terms of socialization. There was a fair that used to be here. Communities want to get together. People want to talk. They want to talk about their plans for the future, about their kids, about schools, about the parks. Mm-hmm. We have to address that, put things like that back in place. The urban renewal band for students and things that could get people going. Our job skills database has already been compiled, and that is to find out not only who are entrepreneurs and have special skills in the community, but to find out who needs a job and how quickly we can liaise, whether it's meeting or getting the information from the Labor Department to put people on jobs that fit them, help them build resumes, and help get them working so they can support themselves and their families.
Where, Zane, can folks who are, constituents of Yamakroa find this information and find out more about you?
There's a constituency office that is open just where Ms. Melanie Griffin was, the same constituency office on Antigua Street in Elizabeth Estates. And the persons are there every day now. We have a sprint, they're collecting information. You can find our social media websites and information there. Hello Yamakroa, Team Zane Lightborn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We can we have pamphlets that are out. We are going to continue to push them out. These are handheld hard documents, and just gives a snapshot, enough digestible information that people can understand, take home, and not be wary reading. And so what we have done is these community service initiatives are coming from within the community. And, we have a crime problem in some areas. We have shootings lately that is not sitting well and shouldn't sit well with anyone. But if we don't address the problem at the root and continue to work with solving these matters, we have bitter blood out there and people are taking the matters in their own hands. We need to intervene and have school intervention with our young men.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Zane. And only because we're short on time, and I have two quick questions, and I need you to be as succinct as possible with this. But I know that you're an educator, so you like to explain stuff. I see that now. If we have more time, we would definitely give you some more, space to ventilate these ideas. 2 quick questions for you. The first one is an easy one, and if you wish to answer it, it's personal, but folks are curious. Of course, you know that the Prime Minister's thing is campaigning. It must be 5 persons vaccinated. Are you vaccinated?
Yes, I am.
That was easy enough. All right. Second one, have you meditated on or have you formulated the plan? Many things that you've said, they're not cheap, right? Certain things require a lot of funding. The budget per annum is $100,000. We know these things are doled out in trenches, right? Or tranches. However they say this, $25,000 a tranche. I think that's the appropriate term. So have you, because there's a lot of plans, man, and everybody got big plans outside. When you get that, all of a sudden, we start to stories.
That's an excellent question. Here's what I did with this 5-point plan. There's nothing on that I would have to go to big government to implement for me. There's everything that can be handled at my level as a member of parliament, because I'm first the member of parliament and representative for these people here in Yamacraw. And I have to serve them and make sure that I win their confidence and continued support to improve this country. We have a country to build, but it starts with each community and each household at a time. And so that is what I am doing. And I'm telling you that those initiatives, there's only one there, which is our parks. We have 11 parks in Yamacraw, and none of them have bathroom facilities, no internet. These are things that people do. So we're speaking about healthy living and sustainability in terms of everybody being able to use diversity, to be able to use parks and go out and enjoy open air and healthy living. But, of older persons who may need to use the restroom every now and then, or other persons, they can't. They have to remain close to home. This is unacceptable. And so that is the only initiative where it may need a bit of extra funding. And we have the dedication of persons who are within the community, business persons, who are willing to be entrepreneurs and donate towards a better Yamacraw. Because representation is very important, and I've been doing it for long enough. I know how. And I'm depending on people to see that and give me an opportunity to make sure that, Yamacraw is the strong, diverse, is the beautiful place that it is.
Zane Lightborn, PLP Yamacraw candidate. Zane, I wish you all the best, my friend. It's not going to be easy. This election will be hard fought indeed. Thank you so much, Zane. It's a pleasure having you. You're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black. Zane Lightborn, PLP candidate for Yamacraw. We will be having guests all across until the end of the month. So, of course, as many candidates wish to join the show, just call Janet Lees, and she will be able to assist you. When we come from the break, though, we're going to switch gears. COVID-19 is changing. COVID-19 is changing, and it's scaring me more than ever. And I'll tell you why. You're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. We'll be back after.
Can we report that too?
Of course we can.
But we could be in deep trouble if they find out.
We need to report what we see, Beulah. When you call Crime Stoppers, they just answer your call in Miami.
So then we can report everything? Guns, where they hiding the drugs, who shoot who part of which gang, or who disturbing the peace with the loud music and the motorcycles.
Then our neighborhood will be the best in the Bahamas, and everybody gonna want to come live here. And then our house price will go up, gal.
So what we waiting on? What's the number?
If you see something, say something. Let us all pitch in and stop the crime before it's your time. Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands. Or text us through the Crack Crime Bahamas app. Stop the crime before it's your time.
Rejuvenate, refresh, treat yourself. Immerse yourself in total comfort. Pamper yourself. After all, you're worth it. Relax. Rid yourself of all life's stresses. At Baja Retreat Anti-Aging Spa, you will find everything you need to enhance your body and spirit. Call today at 323-6711 and begin your journey to serenity at Baja Retreat Anti-Aging Spa.
Enjoy an elevated mobile experience with BTC, giving you
unlimited talk for the best conversations, unlimited data for all your online fun,
and unlimited roaming to stay connected while overseas.
For just $50 per line.
Unlock unlimited mobile talk, data, and roaming when you sign up for BTC Superfast Fiber Internet with speed starting at 100 megabits per second. Enjoy more great savings and value. Upgrade or sign up today. Visit any BTC store or btcbahamas.com. Conditions apply.
Hello, Bahamas. My name is Dr. Dwayne Sands. I was born and raised in Centerville, in the heart of the valley, Nassau, Bahamas. I'm a proud Bahamian. I've been fortunate to represent the great people of Elizabeth for the last 5 years. It has always been my dream to serve my country, and I have been involved in the political process on the front line since 2009. I am very, very proud of the support of my family, who have been with me from the beginning and who are still with me to this day. In particular, my wife, Larica, and all of my children, and actually there's quite a few of them. I'm actually a cardiovascular surgeon. What that means is I take on the sickest people with the biggest problems every day. And so for me, the political process to deal with the challenges facing our country is pretty much par for the course. It's what I do every day. I am happy to be a part of the great team of the Free National Movement under the leadership of Dr. Hubert Minnis. We are indeed Elizabeth Strong.
This has been a paid political announcement by the F&M candidate for Elizabeth.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. So this weekend has been a tough weekend for a lot of people. We had 5 more people added to the list of COVID-19 deaths. But those weren't numbers or names that happened over the weekend, that happened on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We are constantly continuing to pile up on these families. Yesterday, finding out from a friend and seeing his post that a mother and son within 24 hours of each other. But what hit me was on Saturday night, a friend that is a real friend of my husband and a friend of ours found out that his wife died. And his wife died in his arms. His wife died in his arms while he was trying to take her to the hospital. His wife was diagnosed with COVID on Friday. She died Saturday. And we were stunned by this because we're all the same age. And floored by how quickly and how violently things turned from laughing at the race with Sha'Carri Richardson to laughing and then coughing and uncontrollably to no more. And so that stunned us. It stung us. And then to know what he must, not even understanding, but to have an idea of, was a husband and father, to not be able to help. You can imagine that, not being able to help your wife. I can't imagine that heartache and that loss and what that means. But what is even more scary to me was the way, and it was a violent kind of experience, and something that I've heard before. So there's this word, and I called some doctors, and the last one, an immunologist said to me, we have seen cerebral hemorrhaging from some patients. And that is a scary sight. And I don't know if you remember Dr. Barnett, he and his family were going through, and his son, when he did a recent interview, talked about how his brother was spitting up blood. And this is now something that I'm not hearing it sufficient times to wonder if this is a part of COVID now, where we're talking about violent, not just I can't breathe, but now we're talking about blood coming out of the eyes, the nose, the ears, cerebral hemorrhaging. Speaking to the immunologist, she said, we're trying to, research is there, we're trying to find out if it seems as if the Delta variant is attacking the blood. Why am I just not even in the how, and the patient was on oxygen from being positive. It was, however, she was also type 2 diabetic. And however, she was fully vaccinated. This is the first case I have heard of a fully vaccinated person dying from COVID. So this now, I know, changes not the conversation, because we knew that there were these breakthrough cases of vaccinated people ending up in the hospital. But now I'm saying, but hold on. Not only are people possibly dying and fully vaccinated, but we don't know. This is the first one I know of, so I don't know. And this is not the official statement because, things are delayed, and I don't know if we don't know. Once I knew this was something we had to discuss, because this now takes it to a next level for me. Speaking with physicians now, speaking with doctors across all spectrums, sphere, using my Rolodex, Delta is scaring them more than ever before. This wave is considered the most scary. I asked Dr. Dwayne Sands to join me, cardiovascular surgeon and former Minister of Health, because I needed to figure out what is going on. What is happening? A fully vaccinated patient, but type 2 diabetic. So they were immunocompromised. We know that the immunocompromised persons are at risk. But the way that she passed away was not, the family is still in shock. And I got Dr. Dwayne Sands here. Doc, I know you heard all of that. You and I spoke, and I'm speechless and stunned, more so on not knowing what to say now. What is this now? What are we dealing with? What are we dealing with this virus?
First of all, let me express condolences to Avril's, to the family. This is somebody that I've known for many, many years, many decades. And it speaks to the evolution of COVID, and in particular, the devastating impact of Delta on what we think we know about managing COVID. Mm-hmm. And so as you listen to the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, as you listen to the President of the United States, as you listen to the Director General of the WHO, much of their commentary is based on information that we're now getting about Delta and the impact of Delta on the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. And so as the United States has modified its recommendations in the last 2 weeks, you would have first heard that immunocompromised people should get 3 shots as opposed to 2. And now it appears as if the recommendation will be that all Americans will be recommended to get 3 COVID shots, with the 3rd shot coming 8 months after completion of the first 2. And that is based in large part on data coming out of Israel that shows that there are a number of breakthrough cases with hospitalizations and even deaths, albeit in a very, very low percentage and a dramatically lower percentage than people that are unvaccinated.
Yes.
But there are breakthroughs. And if you talk, what's the difference in terms of deaths and hospitalizations between vaccinated and unvaccinated? It's on the order of 400 to 1. Mm-hmm. So your risk, if you're a vaccinated person, is 400 times less than if you're unvaccinated, but it is not 0. And so one of the things that we now realize is that we cannot say to people that even if you're vaccinated, you have no risk of death or no risk of hospitalization. And now the conversation needs to be which persons ought to get a 3rd dose.
Yeah.
Now, juxtaposed against that is the WHO and Dr. Tedros's position, which is as long as there are people who are unvaccinated in the world, nobody is safe, even if you get 3, 4, 5 doses of vaccines. Because if we do not vaccinate people in Africa and Asia, in poor countries, in countries that don't have access to vaccines like the wealthy countries, then we are going to create a monster variant just like Delta and possibly worse.
Yeah.
And so the take-home message right now is not, even a doubly vaccinated person can get COVID, so I ain't getting vaccinated. The message really ought to be that we ought to be doing everything possible, including double vaccination and wearing masks and hand sanitization and staying away from people. Today, the Bahamas was just upgraded in terms of its CDC warning to level 4 again, which means that we are once again at the highest level. All of us, from the government all the way down to the smallest child, needs to play our part in stamping out the spread of COVID in this community. And, we have seen the greatest number of deaths this month. We have seen the greatest number of cases this month, and today is only the 23rd of August. And as you know, I'm not clairvoyant by any stretch of the imagination, but we discussed this about a week ago, and the trend seemed to be that we were going to see a lot more deaths, and I'm afraid that indeed we have seen, and there will be quite a few more.
Dr. Dwayne Sands joining us. All right, Doc, so here it is. We have, so for those who are just tuning in, fully vaccinated type 2 diabetic person has passed away. And I was happy that you and I got to do this because I found myself even more so convinced that we need to be people who get vaccinated. But what is scaring me on top of that too, Doc, is how is this variant different? Speaking with Dr. Melissa Evans today, and her thing was that this virus, this variant, is scarier for them. It is this wondering, is it attacking the blood? They're very concerned that they have seen cerebral hemorrhaging with this, and I'm trying to figure out how common is that? How are we moving from laughing to uncontrollable coughing to dying? How is this happening from one day, 24 hours ago, you were alive, from diagnosis, you have oxygen, and then you're gone. And because I don't think I'm getting, what is this? I don't know. I don't know if we're explaining what this is.
So we can only speculate, and I think it's important for us to now, let's separate out the discussion of the Delta variant and its mode of destruction from that particular beautiful human being that is no longer with us and with our family.
Yes.
And I say beautiful not only physically, but also in her personality.
Yeah.
The challenge with COVID, and particularly Delta, is that it impacts clotting. So you are more prone to clot, and that means you can clot in the venous system, in the arterial system, in the brain, in the heart, in the extremities. So the potential mechanism of death can include a massive pulmonary embolus, a heart attack, a stroke. We have had discussions about clotting from vaccination. Well, the clotting from COVID is tens of times greater than with vaccination. And so the possibility of sudden death could be either an acute pulmonary embolus or an acute heart attack or an intracranial bleed. So the potential mechanisms, given the impact of COVID, are huge. I would have had a very lengthy and candid conversation with Dr. Mark Weish, who, along with a number of other anesthesiologists, lead the COVID response at South Beach and at the Legacy Unit. And he expressed phenomenal frustration at the efforts being expended in order to salvage patients, only to be just have the wind knocked out of your sail when they don't make it. So just to give you for instance, yesterday I was seeing 2 patients in the morning or early afternoon, and one of them died last night, and another of them was critically ill as of when I spoke to him this morning. We have reports of seriously ill patients in Grand Bahama, and hoping to be able to move to a facility of higher levels of expertise. And there's no room in the inn in Florida. There's no room in the inn in the United States. There's no room in the inn in New Providence. And people, it is bad out there. It is absolutely bad out there. And so, yes, line up and get vaccinated, but understand that the public health measures work. Wear your mask, and stay away from people you don't know.
Yeah. Someone asked, so should we now register for 3rd shots, Dr. Sands?
That's an excellent question. And the answer is that it is still very controversial. If I were to answer that as a public health person, and I'm talking about somebody who focuses on population dynamics, I would give an answer that's different than the answer given by an individual physician. So for populations, it might be said that no, let's vaccinate everybody else who hasn't been vaccinated at all. But your personal physician giving advice would say, look, you have to do what's right for you. And if you're certainly immunocompromised, if you're diabetic, if you have cancer, if you have lupus, if you're taking any drugs that reduce your immune system, then a 3rd shot is something that you ought to have a very serious conversation with your provider about. And for many persons, maybe as much as 17% of the population who have been vaccinated, yes, a 3rd shot is in order. And I use that number based on the CDC numbers. That said, the Bahamas is not yet set up for 3rd shots. We are still actively working on getting 2nd shots in as many arms, and in many instances, 1st shots. And the idea that mass vaccination is causing variants is absolute utter rubbish. It is total rubbish. The requirement of vaccination to prevent the development of variants in the unvaccinated is really where our focus should be. And the anti-vaxxer movement will push this theory that vaccination is causing variants. And that is, and I'll say it very strongly, it's pure, unadulterated rubbish. And I wanted to use a stronger word.
Yeah, and just for the record, to confirm what you're saying there, I think in India, when, folks were, dying from the Delta variant in India, that was October 2020. They didn't start the vaccination process with AstraZeneca until January 2021. So their people weren't even vaccinated.
Never let the facts Never let the facts get in the way of a good story. Never let the facts get in the way of a good story. And so when you listen to this about, it's vaccination that's causing the development of these variants. Well, the Delta variant started in India well before anybody was vaccinated in India. And so please, this is when the misinformation and disinformation campaigns are going to go on overdrive to frighten people, to get them to doubt. And all I can say is, let me congratulate you for trying to bring some honesty to this process. I think the more we talk about it and walk people through these different issues, the better we'll be. But if you have any doubt, if you had any doubt, if you wanted to think about it a little bit longer, I would encourage you think about it when you're on that line at Loyola or St. Anselm's or some other vaccination center, and start the process to protecting yourself and your family.
Dr. Dwayne Sands joining us. Doc, before I let you go, and actually we got to take, Doc, give me 2 more minutes on the other side of the break. I have 2 more questions for you. So if you don't mind, can I?
No problem.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Dr. Dwayne Sands joining us here on the Hit Back. We'll be back after this. More on COVID-19 and what it's doing to us. And let's see how we move forward from here. We'll be back after.
Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM.
When I had got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and we set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. It's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
Hello, Bahamas. My name is Dr. Dwayne Sands. I was born and raised in Centerville, in the heart of the valley, Nassau, Bahamas. I'm a proud Bahamian. I've been fortunate to represent the great people of Elizabeth for the last 5 years. It has always been my dream to serve my country, and I have been involved in the political process on the front line since 2009. I am very, very proud of the support of my family, who have been with me from the beginning and who are still with me to this day. In particular, my wife, Larica, and all of my children. And actually, there's quite a few of them. I'm actually a cardiovascular surgeon. What that means is I take on the sickest people with the biggest problems every day. And so for me, the political process to deal with the challenges facing our country is pretty much par for the course. It's what I do every day. I am happy to be a part of the great team of the Free National Movement under the leadership of Dr. Hubert Minnis. We are indeed Elizabeth Strong.
This has been a paid political announcement by the FNM candidate for Elizabeth.
Rejuvenate, refresh, treat yourself. Immerse yourself in total comfort. Pamper yourself. After all, you're worth it. Relax. Rid yourself of all life's stresses. At Baja Retreat Anti-Aging Spa, you will find everything you need to enhance your body and spirit. Call today at 323-6711 and begin your journey to serenity at Baja Retreat Anti-Aging Spa.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. Unfortunately, Dr. Sands had to go to another meeting. So if you're just tuning in, and I realize folks we want to hear what we want to hear. There indeed was a case that I know personally of someone who was type 2 diabetic, fully vaccinated months ago, as with everyone else, seeking to make herself safe, doing the wise thing, the smart thing, and unfortunately got COVID, and within 24 hours of that diagnosis passed away. Tragically, and at home, oxygen was being delivered. She had oxygen as well. And with the oxygen on, this is happening. And I walked away from that whole situation, not just in shock, grieving for a friend losing his best friend and wife. You know, mortified that this, and so then I went on a whole rampage of finding out more, learning questions and reading articles, Israel being one of those countries where they saw a lot of breakthrough cases of COVID-19. And realizing that we don't know enough and that we have to be the people who are going to realize and be smart enough and wise enough to know that we don't control this disease. We don't own the narrative on it. We don't get to decide if it works for us. Tell that to the family who lost a mother and a brother yesterday. Tell that to the family who lost a daughter and a mother Friday. Tell it to all of those persons who lost someone last night and night before last. How many times they control the disease? Do they have control? How does it affect you? Even when you think you're safe. That's why vaccinated people, you can't be bully balling around here as if you're immune. There is no immunization. You are not immune. The goal is to not end up being one in the hospital. Your goal is to not be the one that needs it. Now we are seeing, ladies and gentlemen, where right now this is one case. I don't know any others, and the reason why I know this case is because it's personal. But this is not a case where I think that many should jump up and say, well, I'm not getting vaccinated. I actually think beyond anything else, it is a clarion call to get vaccinated. If it is taking out folks this easily, and those who are immunocompromised, please do that for your family who will miss you if you're gone. I remember we had a caller on the line. I remember we had a caller some weeks back when I was asking the question, if we don't want to get locked down and we don't want to get vaccinated, what do you expect the government to do? What do you expect the prime minister to do? You don't want him to say that there are spaces and places the unvaccinated can't go, right? Because if I let you go in a movie theater in a closed environment, we're going to spread this variant. It's going to spread the virus, right? And you're not just going to be a spreader of it, but you're probably going to be in a number. You're probably going to be in that number. So not only do I have to think of you, I have to think of you and the family that you're going home to. Now we're dealing with a variant that is not just saying, well, you vaccinated, I got you. All right, I don't want you. But that for those who are immunocompromised, saying, oh, you're not strong enough. And now we have to consider getting a third shot. So the study has shown that Pfizer, it loses over time its efficacy quicker than AstraZeneca. So it's like we are not in control of this narrative. We don't get to choose if we live or die with this narrative. We don't get to choose if we make this certain decisions that, okay, we don't want to do X, Y, and Z, so there are no consequences. Everything has an opportunity cost. So there are consequences to all of our decisions, some positive, some negative. But we can't be the set who continually blame the government for negative outcomes if we don't consider how our decisions are affecting the outcomes. And I think it's time we start to ask questions about what can we make noise about at this juncture, at this certain point, what levels? Now, mind you, the reality of it is that, yes, they're pushing vaccines, but you can't get your second shot for 8 weeks after you get your first. So, yeah, we're talking vaccines. But before you could be fully immunized, you still got to wait 2 weeks after the second shot to be fully immunized or fully vaccinated, not even immunized, but fully vaccinated so that you have the most robust protection, right? Even though the data has shown that with Pfizer, you're talking about, I think they said 2 weeks, it drops from 96%, 95% to 83% in 2 weeks. What a time. Look, there needs to be other things that can be done. And I'm glad my friend Sia is going to join me because now we have to talk about the other things that should be done. At this point, other things should have happened already. And I don't want to hear nobody running on with, stop. Let me bring on my good friend, C.A. Nuri. C.A., what's up, buddy?
It's always good to be on your show, Nahaja, and I'm listening to the topic you're talking about, and I am concerned. Nahaja, and I need to do something to protect myself and my family more. Mm-hmm. I do not think the current narrative is enough for me to be satisfied and think that I'm safe. So now I need to start to implement a plan B and a plan C and a plan Delta, right? So because, you see that, play on words there. Clearly, there's more I need to do in order to protect my family. And that discussion needs to start to be had right now in the Bahamas. What all can we do to protect ourselves?
Yeah, and that's so... And I'm so glad you brought that up. See, and you were joining me. So there's so much to discuss even on that, right? So I've been getting a lot of calls, and this is how I know things are changing, right? I've been getting a lot of calls, people, messages to my phone through WhatsApp. I mean, not WhatsApp, not just WhatsApp Messenger, through Facebook Messenger. Folks are saying, hey, didn't you have someone who can do home care? Or you mentioned on your show that, there's a physician that comes. So now people are looking for help outside of the hospital, right?
Concierge service. You need definitely some kind of doctoral concierge service to come to your home and add additional support.
And of course, that has its own cost to it. But then we're seeing this change. So I actually got a friend of mine, and actually he's a doctor who's been on the show. He and I worked on a commission together. Linwood Brown. I actually had him on a while ago, and he gave me a card to one concierge service. And this apparently, when I forwarded to the lady who messaged me, this doctor, and I have to get her on the show, shared all of these wonderful bits of aid or information to aid her mother whilst her mother was home. And so I thought of you, and I promise you I will bring her on the show, because apparently Doc gave a long list of things that could help whilst at home. But now I'm also here realizing, Cecil, that we are looking at, I think 150 was yesterday. I got the number somewhere. We have 5 more deaths. Numbers of it's happening. It's happening. Reality is happening, and these are delayed, right? So the numbers are delayed. Plus, we still have 47 to be investigated, and we don't know if the investigated ones are persons who died at home, and that's why they have to be investigated, because they didn't die at the hospital. And the more pick them up, that's one of those questions. But now, let's go to this. Something else has to happen whilst we're talking about vaccinations. This is where the process for me gets frustrating, because I believe, as I've spoken to other physicians, they believe the same, that it is time to lock the country down. Unpopular. But at this point, are we trying to win a popularity contest, or are we actually trying to deal with COVID-19? Do you remember, Cecil, at the beginning of this? What was the main narrative? Flattening the curve. You remember that? You remember that? We used to talk about this all of a sudden. The curve's high. We got to flatten the curve. Dr. Nakia Forbes was actually popular then. You remember that?
Yes.
She was popular.
Remember the term. Yes.
Yeah. So she was sharing the curve and why we need to flatten the curve and how lockdowns help. And then we started getting, all of this, people trapping in the house and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay. So now the argument is, well, when the prime minister was locking people down, y'all had all kind of issues. One, just for the record, I am quite aware what I've been saying on this show from January 2020. Yeah, I am quite aware of the fact that has been consistent for me is that when the hospital gets to a place that it cannot house people, we are in a state of health crisis and emergency, right? We cannot get to that point. You remember that, Cecil?
I do remember it, and I remember the conversation.
Yeah, right? So we need to know that is the metric. The lockdown metric is X, Y, and Z. I even did one show where I showed Canada's approach to dealing with COVID-19. Canada's approach was creating tiers. When X, Y, and Z happens, you're in stage 1. If this thing happens, we're in stage 2. If this thing happens on top of stage 2, we're in stage 3. And it went all the way to 4.
I remember you sharing that too.
All right. And the last one, I think it was stage 5, was lockdown.
Yes.
They had a system where you knew when the whole thing was going to shut the halo down, right? What was the reason why? If you remember, let's go back now. I think people have sudden amnesia. The first lockdown that happened in March 2020, not one Bahamian had an issue, but I'm sure people had an issue. But we were pretty much on board and supported the Prime Minister 100%, I think. Or let's go 98%. Maybe there's some naysayers. But we were okay with this because we knew that this was where we at. We were concerned about this we didn't know as much. Second one came around. The Prime Minister opens up the country in the height of the pandemic in America. We get X, Y, and Z, sick and all of this stuff. And I think he started to say something like effective immediately.
Yes.
And I was like, Negro, what? How you could say something effective immediately?
There's a vexational spirit after those words. What do you mean by effective immediately? You mean tomorrow?
No, effective immediately. It was like tonight, like right now. Mm-hmm. And that was when you saw the uprising, because it was already on issues with we aren't eating. What is being offered is insufficient. We'd already had newscasts where you had Bahamians saying, I stood on this line for $20. This is an insult. You remember that?
Yes.
You remember? Fellow with a check say 14 something.
Yes, I remember that too.
And we are here now at this point where, then after that, the prime minister said, well, the hell with y'all in Nassau. That's what I felt like. He was like, well, if y'all don't want this, then I ain't doing nothing. That's how it felt, because he didn't give us any sort of restrictions after that. He actually found himself in June 2021 with 69 cases the day before, telling us after vaccination, party on. I don't know if you remember that. So yes. We don't know what is the metric for when we should lock down or when we shouldn't lock down. We locked down when it was worse, when it was easier. Now we in hell with COVID. And every speech is a speech on get vaccinated, but not one speech on how do we flatten the curve. Is that science gone away with now? Is that science not relevant now?
And I listen to you, Nahaja, and I appreciate your concern, and I appreciate the history lesson that you gave, right? I appreciate that. And we must also acknowledge that this is unprecedented times, and we are now feeling our way through, right? I call and I'm concerned about the response of the University of the Bahamas and their technocrats and their professionals, their social scientists, their research capabilities, that they are not participating inside this pandemic. They're not giving us any feedback or any meat that we can say at least our university is working and that they are contributing to solving this health crisis, right?
Yeah.
And you started from the beginning on where we started COVID and where we are now. I no longer know if we are in crisis anymore, right?
No, you don't know.
I know before there was a fear of a crisis, and they warned us, said, we don't want to reach here, right? And that here is when our hospital collapsed and all of our facilities collapsed because of overwhelming debts and demand to use the hospital. We are now at that point where the hospital is overburdened, right? That any day we'll be, oh God forbid, and I don't even speak it loud, any day we can see what happened in Spain, what happened in China,
what happened in India,
what happened in Italy, right? Where there was no space in the morgue. There's no space.
We're seeing that now, Cecil.
And that's why I'm concerned, but I'm not really sure if that is where that place where we are now is called crisis. And if it is where we are now is called crisis, then our response to crisis is concerning to me, because we're doing less than we were doing when there was no crisis, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So the question now is what should happen? We now need social scientists to come forward and assist the government with ideas and concepts of what we need to be doing. There's no longer talk about drinking hot water and hot tea and using all these things to break down mucus. There's no longer talk about having vitamins and boosting the immunity because we no longer have space in the hospital, right? There's no longer talk about we more likely you need to stay home because going to the hospital won't assist you. So now let's start having that tough conversation and start pushing back in order to have our government make some tough decisions. I don't want any lockdown. Nahaja, I don't want any lockdown. I understand your cry for it. I understand that once upon a time, Dr. Nakia Forbes would say that lockdown flattened the curve, right? She's no longer saying that. She's no longer doing radio.
What did she say in the paper? We have to do more? What it is? If we don't do more?
We need to do more, right? Or must do more. As if what we're doing now is inadequate, right?
That's right.
Inadequate.
And the only thing left was lockdown.
Yeah. And the conclusion is we come to the conclusion that vaccines is our answer. It is our only answer. It is our only response. And now we need to conclude whether vaccine or vaccination is enough. And I'm not necessarily sure vaccine is enough because you mentioned that first you have the 2 week after being vaccinated to get the full effects. So you, God forbid, you can get COVID in that time and die. You have about 6 weeks in between the first shot.
10 weeks.
You know?
That's 10 weeks. That's 10 weeks.
COVID and die, right?
And we've seen it on the chart, right? We've seen that partially vaccinated people have died. When they did the 411 patients hospitalized, they showed that 11 of those 411 were partially vaccinated, and then they showed the deaths. So we know. So I mean, to say we are in a serious, we are in such, and I love the way you put it. Obviously, we must be in a crisis, right? Because when it was less numbers, when it was less deaths, we are going to eclipse. We've already eclipsed last month's positive cases. We already eclipsed last month's death total. We still have 7-8 more days to go in this month. And people have not been counted yet on the dashboard. So Cecil, we've already eclipsed everything, okay? And we are still open for business. And this is the question. You know, it cannot be politics when people are dying. And this is the thing. Politics, I believe, has gotten us into this thing. Always trying to please somebody. The Prime Minister said at the very beginning of his reign that I'm a doctor. I have to tell people you got to take this thing or you don't make it. You have to take the pill. You have to take the tough medicine. Even if we cry, at this point, what does the Prime Minister have to lose? An election?
Nahaja, well, that is something to lose. But Nahaja, I pause because I see you pontificating, and I'm not sure if that helping the situation. I pause and ask you this. What do you recommend the Prime Minister do? What should we be doing now? Like I said, I like ideas, and I'm willing to hash out whatever you have, whatever you suggest. I'm willing to analyze it and hash it out. And if I have to go and ask somebody for the Prime Minister's inbox number, I'll go and send it to him, because you look like you don't have that communication with him. I'll go and do that. I'll go do that. But give me some ideas. What exactly do you think we should be doing at this present time?
I think at this point where we are now, the numbers, the red in the terms of the death column, in terms of the positive column, if we lock down for one case in March, if we lock down Grand Bahama and Bimini and Abaco for 4, 5, 6, 7 cases before Grand Bahama was, I think, at one point in that time, going in a positive of 60 odd cases a day, then, ladies and gentlemen, we are far past that point of lockdown. And the reason why lockdowns happen is because the health facilities are not functioning. Give the help. We still have doctors and we still have a sick out, right? We still have to deal with the fact that there's not sufficient nurses. We still have to deal with the fact that even if you let these things continue, people are going to die in their homes because they can't get oxygen. And even though the Prime Minister said we got liquefied oxygen, you got to still buy it if you need it, if you're not in the hospital. And my friend was on oxygen, still died. So, I mean, look, we have to lock it down to get the healthcare facility.
And that's what I wanted to hear again.
In the healthcare facility back in order. That's the main thing.
You believe we should lock down the country?
Yes.
And when you say lockdown, exactly what do you mean by lockdown? You mean lockdown everything? Surely not the hotels. You can't mean the hotels. I got to go to work.
Well, I know you can't. I know it hurts, and that's the problem. We shouldn't have let it get this far. That's why lockdowns are the last resort. That's why you have the 5 steps that are check marks. So you can't complain now that, hey, we have to shut everything down, because everything has to shut down. If we had the processes of charting where we would have indicators that say, hey, after we get to this point now, we're in crisis mode. These are the things we must do that are not as stringent as level 5. That's why the disappointment comes in. That's why the cry of, oh, we can't. If you have to lock it down, you can't leave the hotels open, because you got to go to work. And when you go to work, yes, we are now asking guests to be PCR positive, but how many people are you connecting in that time? Is the hotel still testing you even though you're vaccinated? No, they're not testing you anymore if you're vaccinated, are they? Tell me now. I would love to know. And these are important things. How do we keep people protected? We have to stop the movement of the virus. The virus is moving because we're moving. And now we cannot cry if the measures are extreme. What should have been done was this system and check marks, and now it's a code red. You got to execute code red.
And as I speak to you, I remember that we did have a chart and the color chart. So so we did have the systems. Just that as time went by, we do away with some. But just going back to what you said, you recommended full lockdown, and you're recommending that inclusive of the hotels, this lockdown. So you're saying that we're going to close the airport? Is that what you're suggesting?
Listen, that's what lockdowns are, right? That's what lockdowns are.
No, we had different variations of lockdown, and I'm trying to understand your lockdown.
Oh well, listen. Let's go with this. I thought about this today. I don't have all the details in front of me, right? So I don't have all the details in front of me, so I can't say I have tourism talking, health talking. We're all sitting at the same table, right? So we're all sitting at the same table, and they say, "Well, listen, can we mitigate? Can we have a lockdown that stops local movement?" Right? And this is what you'll have these questions. Can we stop local movement to reduce community spread, get this virus under control, and somehow still have tourism work? Then the question will be, perhaps, but we need employees to work it. But what if employees are coming out of their COVID, and this is where data comes in, because the Ministry of Health should tell us right now, what is the spot, what is the scatter, what does the map look like of COVID clusters? How virulent or how contagious are we? This is where the health data comes in. Because if we're realizing now, okay, maybe, you know what, there's 400,000 of us, right now positivity rate is at 5%. We can still function. Maybe we reduce the way we traffic even more. Maybe we reduce curfews even more. Even maybe shut down businesses at 1 p.m. so people aren't at work all day and they can partially work. And then the rest of that go home. You have 1 hour for the store, however it works. But this is where data comes in. We can't nickel and dime and go through this process. We've been doing this for 18 months. I'm not apologizing for this idea, because at this point, if 18 months in, Cecil, we haven't figured this out, but people are dying at an alarming clip, then shame on us. Shame on us. And now the hard decision has to be made, and it has to be made to save the lives of your citizenry, especially those who don't have the money to quarantine, who don't have the facilities. And the way Delta is carrying on, it doesn't even matter how much money you got. And am I the only one looking at the rest in pieces? Am I the only one looking at all of these people who are dying at home, dying in the hospital? It is at this point now where I'm not going to say or capitulate or try to make people comfortable with this stance that I'm at, because we got to this place by not doing our jobs in the first place. And that's a hard statement, but I believe that it's a true statement. At some point, we should have said, whoa. There's too many positives now. We got to do something different. June 20th, the man say, party on. Party on. Vaccinated, party on. And I don't know.
And I listened to you again, and you saying that you were prepared to mitigate and perhaps have the nation closed down half day. So around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, everything in the Bahamas shuts down.
If the data permits, and that's where data comes in.
Supports that.
And so I'm just pontificating without data. But my thing is, you get in the room and figure it out. You can't just have press conferences and don't figure out something. And that's all I'm saying. I don't have the data. You don't have the data. All we could do is pontificate. But at some point, either the data is sufficient for us to say people dying too quick. Cecil, they're dying too quick, and they're dying young, and they're dying old, and in between. Listen, I got to check my dog for COVID now.
Yep. Especially crazy around him. And right now, I'd like to say kudos and best wishes and send out a thanks of appreciation to Mr. Hanna, and I forget his name, but he's the gentleman who's now doing his own graphics about the data. You remember the Hanna gentleman name?
Yes, Alexander Hanna. Wonderful.
Hanna. I'm not sure who he is, but I appreciate his efforts and what he's trying to convey. And his data and information highlights what is going on in the Bahamas. And I like to say thanks to him that I'm watching, and I appreciate what he's doing. Yeah, and I'm hoping that you were able to call him in one of these days to see why he decided to do this by himself without any support, any financing by the government. But he's decided to extract the data and put it in a form that we all can watch and appreciate. So I just want to say thank you to him. But I share your concern. I see that at this present time, just on surface, things look more bleak than it did look in the second waves when we had all those high numbers, right? Yeah. We having the same equal high numbers and more deaths. We having the hospital more overwhelmed. We saying having the hospital strained. We now have the private facilities saying they are strained. at one point in time, and thank God the government was able to negotiate, that we had a demand or a stretch for oxygen. We see we haven't that. We see now that we having a number of persons still being sent home. And these persons who are being sent home look like they're dying.
Yeah.
Right? And in the beginning of the show, the start of the show, you mentioned that what else can be done besides the vaccine or to accompany the vaccine. And perhaps we need the doctors that you invite moving forward to explain what is it that we should be doing at home if we are COVID positive, that we are strained with oxygen. Perhaps call these doctor concierges and make their numbers and information public, that you can do a quick call and say, well, you can get this type of medicine, you can get this type of system or regimen, and just that more people to survive. Right now, we have too many people dying, too many Bahamian souls falling victim to the scourge, and one is too many, and having 5 in 1 week is way too many, right? And I am concerned. I am concerned because school is opening. I'm concerned about the teachers. I'm concerned about the support staff. I'm concerned about the students who are going to school or 1 and 2 days and coming home, right? The students who are starting sporting activities and coming home, right? The students who would need Grammy to watch them because their parents are to work, right? And putting their parents at risk. So these are real conversations, and we need more persons to the fore, making suggestions to the government and implementing policies and procedures that we Bahamians can adopt and say, well, this is what we're doing. And I don't think enough of that is happening at this present time. I don't think the tough conversations is happening at this present time. And that's why I say I am personally disappointed in UB. I believe UB is as great as any institution in the Caribbean, and I'll challenge even the United States. And their contribution to this national dialogue on what needs to be happening is not, or in conclusion, is insufficient.
Yep.
And we need to challenge them and call the president and say, what is it that you are doing, Mr. President? What are you leading? Because this ain't enough. I ain't happy. I'm not happy, UB. University of the Bahamas, I am not happy. Do some more.
Someone, some texter says, lockdowns cost money. We have no money. Again, so then what are we saying? Are we throwing our hands up? We're just, and this is important that it's said. So if what is being done is a statement of we are broke, then what are we telling people? Okay, so get vaccinated, but you won't be fully vaccinated until 10 weeks, right? Because you will get your first shot, you get your second shot, and we know that there's no, even now, knowing that if you are immunocompromised, you need a third shot. The Delta variant is changing it is attacking us so quickly, a country filled with comorbidity. So if we're broke, and that's the argument, that we're saying, in essence, just this is it. People are going to die until we all get fully vaccinated, even though we know that folks are not planning on, a lot of folks won't get vaccinated. So
and you call those persons collateral damage.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
And we are prepared to lose several Bahamians because we want to be open. And that's the conclusion. We are prepared to have 1 or 2 people die in order to have our society and our business continue and commerce continue. And that's what it is. We are prepared for the death.
My thing is, though, it's easy to say. It's and even though I understand what you're saying, I can't handle that flippancy. I can't handle that because we are now knowing the people. This isn't a distant virus as people thought before. How come I know nobody who died from COVID? You remember that early on? Ain't nobody I know. People are dying so quickly that your Facebook timeline or your Twitter timeline can't catch from a joke. The fact that someone could be watching and laughing at Sha'Carri Richardson, laughing at the race, not at the race, not at her, at the race.
Amused by it.
Yeah, amused at the race and all of the memes, because we were all laughing at the memes.
Yes.
You know, and in that moment, from enjoying lightheartedness with your spouse to your spouse holding you in their arms, trying to get you, calling for ambulances and none available. PMH ain't got none for you. Doctors ain't got none for you. Imagine that, Cecil. Imagine that, and watching them violently die in your arms. This isn't one where it's one person or where people are, and a number is a number, but the human that made that number was important to the family they came from. And I never believed that one was acceptable. But we understood that this virus was going to be an issue. Hence why it was our responsibility. And even as we as citizens now have to be responsible. We have to be responsible as well. We have to know that, hey, this thing can come at any time. If I am a breadwinner, I got to make sure I stay a breadwinner. I've got to do everything I can to be there for my children who have to graduate. I want to see my grandkids. Do what you must, do what you can. Go and talk to your doctor. For those who don't have personal physicians, find a personal physician, a physician that you trust. When since we stop trusting our own doctors, our own people who are giving us medicine? And this, all of this is something I want us to get, that there are narratives across the world. If I tell people straight, I was watching this thing before I decided to get vaccinated. I was checking to see how many white people was taking this vaccine. I ain't even lying. I'm checking how many white, all these white people taking this vaccine. You know, I'm a minority. I gotta make sure. You know, this one time I follow in the herd on this one. And if they try to get rid of all of these white people, then justice for all. I get into heaven anyway, right? So my children will be in good hands. I trust God on that. But we have to realize this is not new to the world. It is new to us. It is new to our generation. Vaccinations are important. Vaccinations are something that really you have to now consider this for you. There will be a group who will decide not to do it. But we, by and large, as Bahamians, are not anti-vaxxers. Ask yourself the question, is your fear reasonable? When you know your colleague at church died. When y'all hear people dying and they get in cerebral hemorrhages now because it's attacking the blood, pulmonary embolisms, aneurysms, clotting. Look, the government, there's a certain point where we are in crisis and the government should step in. I don't want no more speeches and slapping up. You know, I ain't into all of that. Right now, even if I get vaccinated today, my first shot today, I still got 10 weeks in the wilderness. Yeah? 10 weeks naked. And that still doesn't guarantee anything, especially if you're immunocompromised, especially when we're talking about on average 150 people a day. And that's just the numbers we know. What about all of the antigen tests, not the PCR tests? Projections show if we're seeing these numbers of 150, 160, we are well into the 600, 700 positives a day. This is how they're tracking the virus. But we're talking about those numbers, and that's why those numbers can be very misleading because they're not the actual figures. And so it is important for us not to just look at the dashboard because we're quoting numbers that are given to us, but realize this thing is in the community. And mother and son, second mother and son, we are aware of. The government, we have to do more. And I think now we have to bite the bullet. People ain't gonna like it. But if you got to, there's a pill that you got to take so that we can catch ourselves. And I agree, if it's New Providence, you got to take it. You've got to take the pill. It's a tough pill to swallow, buddy. But blame them, not us. Decide how much people you're willing to lose in this fight. Because I ain't willing to lose none of mine. None. And they gonna cry. That's what I say. Let them cry lockdown. At least you come out and you can be all right. And now we have to do testing too. Start testing people more, man. Just free test, free PCR, a proper PCR giveaway. You'll get a test.
I'm cool with the testing too, but what happens after the test? If I'm tested positive, what do I do?
Then after you test positive, we have a quarantine site. And that's what the 250 from IMF was supposed to be for. But find the rest of that money.
What site you talking about?
I know that's what you got emergency powers for. You could take a site. That's what.
Just take a hotel. Take one close.
That's what you get all these powers for. That's what you get all the money for. Do the job. Job.
What that hotel we supposed to go to and we announced that's where we put in the COVID people, and they said no, not there.
As soon as y'all start talking big, they say no, breeze out of here.
Not us. You mean someplace else?
Get your wind from around here. No. And upset about my sandwich and apple. Yeah. I mean, I get sandwich and apple.
Stuff.
Oh my God.
insulted Michael Bannister. I talk about the food on the ground.
I mean, it was a club sandwich with a gala apple. I think people ungrateful, eh? Mothers.
No, and they had food afterwards. I digress. But
all right, we gotta go.
I also want to and see, since I called no names and being with angst, what are ORG doing? Organizing for Responsible Government. Once upon a time, they're giving ideas, telling the government you should be doing this. This is where we should be at. Here's this to consider. Now we get all we can hear is nothing, just silence. They believe we ain't watching. These people believe we are no longer watching, right? They go quiet, they mute, right?
Yeah.
They see our government needs some assistance and they ain't come up with no ideas. The best of us are now mute, right? And I'm concerned about that.
Someone says, Bahamian here in Texas, me and my wife had COVID and recovered. She now gives blood plasma to help those with COVID. What happened to people like her? We don't even talk about that. Oh, and there's something in the States, in Florida, called Regeneron. I don't know what it is, but apparently now they have Regeneron centers where folks are going to for this monocyclial sort of treatment. I'm supposed to ask some folks on that, but that's interesting as well. Some sort of, I don't know what it is, but apparently that's happening in Florida with these stations with Regeneron as a treatment, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. We right now, the only thing is go to the hospital. That's it, right? Go to the hospital. We don't have, but and oxygen is available if you go to some locations, if you could afford it. We'll be right back. C.A. Nuri joining me. You're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM.
Hello, Bahamas. My name is Dr. Dwayne Sands. I was born and raised in Centerville, in the heart of the valley, Nassau, Bahamas. I'm a proud Bahamian. I've been fortunate to represent the great people of Elizabeth for the last 5 years. It has always been my dream to serve my country, and I have been involved in the political process on the front line since 2009. I am very, very proud of the support of my family, who have been with me from the beginning and who are still with me to this day. In particular, my wife, Larica, and all of my children, and actually there's quite a few of them. I'm actually a cardiovascular surgeon. What that means is I take on the sickest people with the biggest problems every day. And so for me, the political process to deal with the challenges facing our country is pretty much par for the course. It's what I do every day. I am happy to be a part of the great team of the Free National Movement under the leadership of Dr. Hubert Minnis. We are indeed Elizabeth Strong.
This has been a paid political announcement by the F&M candidate for Elizabeth.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Throughout our lifetime, we must all make decisions. No matter how we choose, the right one just needs to be made. Like having J.S. Johnson Insurance Agents and Brokers as your insurance partner. We've been serving the Bahamas for over 100 years. Whether you need home, motor, marine, or commercial insurance, make the right decision. Call 397-2100 or visit jsjohnson.com.
J.S. Johnson Insurance. Peace of mind.
When I had got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and we set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. It's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
Enjoy an elevated mobile experience with BTC giving you
unlimited talk for the best conversations, unlimited data for all your online fun,
and unlimited roaming to stay connected while overseas.
For just $50 per line.
Unlock unlimited mobile talk, data, and roaming when you sign up for BTC Superfast Internet with speed starting at 100 megabits per second. Enjoy more great savings and value. Upgrade or sign up today. Visit any BTC store or btcbahamas.com. Conditions apply.
Many people wonder, what makes Boost Academy unique? Maybe it's our 8-to-1 student-staff ratio, the emphasis we place on student individuality, our focus on numeracy, literacy, and creating better citizens by sharpening students' critical thinking skills. One of our many talented teachers, program facilitators, and mentors. Or just maybe it is our commitment to taking full responsibility for your child's education, no hidden fees or costs. Regardless of what it is, let us help your child reach their full potential. Boost Academy is currently enrolling students of grades 4 through 12. Visit www.boostbahamas.com to apply now.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. I hope that everybody's doing well, taking care of yourself, living as best of a life as you can under the situation and the circumstances we find ourselves in. Please, 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 please be safe. Shared a story today where there was someone who I'm familiar with that unfortunately has passed away. We know that Sawyer Boy also, a friend at the station, a colleague here, is in the hospital. We're praying for him. He should be fine, hopefully. And other colleagues in media are also in hospital. So not from Guardian, but folks whose name mentioned you would know, but they don't want folks to know that information yet. So we are definitely in a time where it doesn't matter who you are, young or old or in between. We are seeing we're seeing this thing in the country. And so my husband and our friend is a widower now. Just Saturday, man, look here. Man, I tell you, I cried because I saw my husband and him. I know what my husband would do if I was sick, where he would have, and 2 daughters as well, 2 kids as well. And I'm thinking about, having to try and rush someone, your spouse, and you can't even get them out the door. Everything going wrong in minutes, and you can't do anything about it. And that to me, I'm afraid may be a story that is very common in this country. And I'm afraid that that's a common story. But you also have the story of people who are dying in the hospital whose family can't even be there. You can't hold them in their last moments. And so, I'm finding for me that this whole thing, and as a person who knows that I'm very empathetic, I feel everything. I feel like I feel everything all the time. And hence why I need a lot of mental health breaks for me, where I detach and come back. Because this is heavy, man. It's heavy when you realize those numbers aren't numbers. 338 isn't a number. That's 338 souls. 338 mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, uncles, cousins. 338. And there's more to be added that we haven't added yet. CN Yuri joining me. Someone texts, "Hi, Nahaja and Cecil. I have seen election dates change in other countries. I believe we have to form a government within 90 days from the dissolution of the House. Dr. Minnis should push election to early November 2021 so the new providence could be locked down for 3 weeks without affecting political campaigns." Great show. I think we have to do something. I hope you don't support mandatory jabs, Ms. Black, because sounds like this is where your mind is. How could my mind? You must be reading your mind now. Like, Did I ever say I support mandatory jabs? How many times have I said, Cecil, I do not support mandatory vaccinations? So what I say and where my mind is, I digress. Please never try to deny me my right to refuse this jab. I am happy you said you're not immunized after the shot. Only vaccine gives immunity. This COVID shot is no vaccine. Oh my God, now we go in there? I can't. All right. People need to drink aloe. It is loaded with natural vitamin C. Start with 1 or 2 cups a week. Skip a month and do it again. Also, D3 supplement and zinc. Fever grass is also good. Actually, something that I've also found to be very good is a stretch, but has helped people who had the preliminary symptoms of COVID is aloe and pineapple juice. Apparently, pineapples have this particular vitamin in it, along with aloe, that when you blend them together, it tastes awful, but it works. And it helps to, especially those persons who are diabetic in the early stages of symptoms. It is said to be quite helpful. And my mother drank it, and it helped her in her recovery a bit. But she, at a certain point, she was too far gone, so we had to take her to the hospital there too. So, there's a lot of things that are helpful, and we got to figure out what it is. But CA, as we're coming to a close on the show, you're all about suggestions. How do we help? What should we do? I like the fact that you say you don't show up, we're in a crisis now, because we sure don't. We ain't behaving like we're in a crisis.
We ain't behaving like we're in a crisis, no.
Your thoughts?
I just was sent some kind of flyer on home remedies or suggested things to do when you're at home and you have COVID at home. So I'm going to share that on my page and actually analyze that and see what we can do as Bahamians from that list. Mm-hmm. So I'm grateful for the person who sent that to me. Mm-hmm. Big shout outs to Latoya. She's listened to the show.
Excellent.
I believe we need to have some discussions. I believe that Bahamians need to have discussions on suggested remedies on what we can follow. See, I've been watching what is happening in Jamaica, right, and seeing their lockdown process. They have closed down their entire economy altogether.
Yeah.
Days of complete lockdown. Their curfew starts at like 3:00 in the afternoon, right? And the numbers continue to increase, but they're doing that because of how drastic things are. I don't want us to get that drastic, that desperate. And my other concern is that we see that the CDC has put us back to level 4, right? In terms of this COVID, right? I don't want to see places like the United States, Britain, Canada, put us on a closed list, and they close our society for us, right? And that we got to work towards reopening our economy. I don't want to get that. It's one thing, we closing ourselves down in order to mitigate the situation. But imagine these countries that we depend on close their borders to us, saying that we are a risk to them, right? That we can't get stuff at all, or the citizens cannot come. And see, we need to start doing some things in order for that not to happen, right? Because when they close, it's up to them when they decide to reopen for us or to us. And I'm a little wary and a little concerned with that. And if we need to reach out to the U.S. Embassy, if we need to reach out to Cuba, if we need to reach out to the rest of the Caribbean, if we need to reach out to United Kingdom and say, hey, can we have some suggestions on what to do? This is why we have a whole foreign affairs ministry. Start reaching out and asking some questions, some queries, right? Start challenging the entities and the corporations that we have here. We have experts and professionals living in the Bahamas. We need to reach out to them and say, hey, what do you recommend? We have persons with money and expertise living behind these various communities in the gates. We need to reach out to them and say, what do you recommend that we should be doing at this present time, right? Because I don't want us to become overwhelmed. I don't want us to become overwhelmed that we lose supplies, where the hospital is completely full and we cannot take anybody in. You know, right now we have people waiting in the hallways, right? We have people outside in tents. Imagine we get to a point where we have no more space in a tent. We have no more space in the hallway, right? We have no more space to pack people, 4 or 3 to 4 people on top in the morgue. We just don't have the space no more. And we tell the people them, don't come. Makes no sense coming because we cannot serve you.
But
I don't
that's where
want
we are.
to. Say again?
That's where we are.
It's tight. You ever go on a bus and you got to laugh up?
Did you watch that?
We laugh at this present time. But we have space to squeeze onto somebody and press against somebody. But we are not at the point where you said, man, no more can fit in this bus. We could make room. I mean, it's bad and it's tight. You can smell people's arm, right? But we're not as bad as it could be. We're not like what was happening in India, what was happening in Spain, what was happening at Italy. We're not at that point. But we need to say, we need to do things now in order not to get to that point.
C.A. Nuri joining me, and C.A. I was showing one of the charts by Mr. Alexander Hanna, and I want to add that to it, but we were just because we are to that place, right? I believe that we are definitely there. When doctors are calling for us to come in the hospital, come see, we need help. Like when this is next level, definitely we're there. When you have a tent of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people and only one high flow oxygen, okay, we're there. When ambulances can't come to pick you up because they ain't got none or room, I think we're there. But just for the record, special thanks again to Mr. Alexander J. Hanna, who's been creating these COVID reports for us on his own. And I think everyone, you can email him and I will be bringing him on the show. But the level of detail is just what we need in terms of positivity rates. He's showing 18% positivity rate on Saturday, August 21st. And it's current too, because I just haven't used the recent one. But our projected amount for August in terms of positive cases is $3,723. I had a Miriam slip. And then I said dollars too, even worse, cases. So we are in a bad state, and everyone please be safe. We gotta go. Cecil, thank you so much for today. Appreciate you. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. Keep each other in prayer, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. We're out.